So all our pool table needs now is some legs to hold it up. So in this movie, we'll put the finishing touches on our pool table family and then load it into our condo project and see how it looks. I'm in a file called Pool Table, and I'm in the reference level floor plan view. And we'll look at a new kind of geometry for this one. We're going to look at a blend. But to get ourselves set up, we need to create a few reference planes. So I'm actually going to maximize the floor plan view just to give us a little bit more room to work and zoom in. Go to reference plane. And I want to draw one across here. Set that dimension to 2 inches. Draw one down here. Set that dimension to 2 inches. Draw another this way at a dimension of 6 inches. And one more here at a dimension of 12 inches. And that's going to be the kind of skeleton for the leg. Now let's just lock our design intent in by going to annotate, going to dimensions, and adding some constraints to lock the position. And you want to lock reference planes to reference planes. Don't lock to the geometry. You want the reference planes to drive the geometry. So I'm going to select both of these reference planes and these dimensions. I'm using my control key to do that. And I'll mirror them over here. It lost that one. No big deal. I'll just add it again. And lock it. Probably a good idea when you do this sort of thing to just quickly flex it and make sure everything's still working the way you expect. Looks pretty good to me. Let's go back to our 8-foot variety and add a blend. So a blend is basically an extrusion that is different at the top and the bottom. So you draw 2 sketches this time instead of 1. So instead of drawing a single sketch and just extruding it by some height, you draw a sketch for the bottom and then a sketch for the top, and then the height blends between the two. So let's take a look. I'm going to go to blend. And the first thing I want to do is go to a rectangle. And I'm going to use an offset of 2 inches. And I'm going to click at the intersection of one of those new reference planes I just drew and drag to the other intersection. But before I click, I'm going to tap the space bar because I want that rectangle to actually be on the inside of those reference planes, not the outside. And then I'll click. Next, I'm going to go here to this button and choose Edit Top. And I'm going to use a slightly different technique. Instead of an offset, I'm going to use a radius of 2 inches. And this time, it'll snap directly to the reference planes. And when I click the second point, it'll actually round off all the corners by a 2-inch radius. And let me go ahead and lock those. And then let's click Finish. Now I'm going to drop back to the 4 views here. And we have 2 small problems. I left my work plane set to surface, and it really ought to be back down here on the floor. Not a big deal. Very easy to fix that. With the object selected, I can click the Edit Work Plane button on the ribbon, and I can change it from playing surface back down to the reference level. That'll pull it down there, and then I can use my shape handle again and drag up and make sure you're snapping to the reference plane and go ahead and lock it. Once I have the one, zoom back out in plan view. I'll mirror it to the other side, and we have the other. And let's take a look here. Get a good view in our 3D. Let's go ahead and flex and make sure that everything's doing what we think it should do. And that takes care of that. So everything seems to be behaving. Let's talk about some finishing touches. It might be nice to change the material of the surface of our pool table. So in the 3D view, I'm going to go ahead and select that extrusion there, the 3D extrusion that we created for the surface of the pool table. And then over here on the Properties palette, you can see that there's a Material and Finishes item, and it's currently defaulting to by category, which is why the whole pool table is this sort of gray material, because it's just generically using a simple material. We can click this little button right next to that item there and assign a parameter, in this case a material parameter, you can see it listed there at the top, to the item we have selected. Now there aren't any material parameters currently in this family file, so we're going to click Add Parameter. We've seen this dialog box before. We were doing length parameters at that point. This time we're getting a material parameter, and I will call this just simply felt. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then OK again. And it doesn't actually change the color here, not yet anyway, but it does put a little equal sign next to that to indicate that a material parameter has been assigned. And now this parameter we can flex the same way that we flexed our length parameters by going to the Home tab, clicking the Family Types dialog, and now you'll notice we have a new parameter here under Materials and Finishes called Felt. And instead of by category, I'll just simply click on that and choose my new green felt material and click OK, and that makes the top of the pool table green felt. We're almost done. What pool table would be complete without some pool balls and a few pool cues? So I've taken the liberty of creating a separate family for you. Turns out that you can actually nest one family inside of another family. Okay, that's what the proper term is for that. It's called nested families, bringing a family in and putting it in another. So I'm going to go to the Home tab, click the Component tool. Revit will tell me I don't have any component families loaded in this family. Do I want to load one now? I'll go ahead and say yes. I'll look at the exercise files, Chapter 12, and we have a family here called Cues and Balls. Go ahead and open that up. And this one is a face-based family, which means that you have to have your cursor on a surface. So you see it won't appear unless we are on the surface. It's kind of going the wrong way, so we'll just tap our space bar. We'll go ahead and place that somewhere, and that takes care of that. So we want to save the family. We'll just do that here on the QAT. And as a final step, your final test for your family, you want to load it into a project. Now, if I don't have any projects open, Revit will say, hey, sorry, there's no projects open. So the final test for your family is to simply load it into a project. Now, before we started, I actually opened up the project file called Condo. It's in the exercise folder. I'm going to click Load into Project. And because that file is open on screen, Revit will simply switch over and immediately put me in the Component tool and allow me to place my pool table right here in my rec room. And we can go to the View tab, click the 3D View drop-down, grab a camera view, maybe stand right here, drag right there, and take a look at our handiwork.